Shalom everyone. Yesterday we learned about the Ruach Ra'ah, the evil spirit that rests on us when we are sleeping, and especially on our hands, because our hands are the ones that are most related to creating and helping, partnering with God in making the world a better place. So Rav Melamed, I'll just remind everybody, he's writing in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, so it might be slightly different for us outside of Israel. So, according to the Zohar and the Kabbalists, one must wash her hands immediately upon waking from her sleep, so as not to prolong the Ruach Ra'ah upon her hands. They also caution against walking more than 4 amot, 4 cubits, which is approximately 6 feet, before washing one's hands in the morning. Therefore, one must prepare water before going to sleep and place it near her bed so that she can wash her hands immediately upon rising. That's the Shari Tshuva written about 100 years ago. And there are those, and I think that this is our opinion, who are lenient regarding this because, in their opinion, the entire house is considered a single space of 4 amot. For example, if you started eating bread in the dining room, but then went to the living room and continued your eating, even though we're supposed to go back to Makom Suda, the place of eating, to say the Birkat Hamazon, most rabbis say that you're allowed to bench where you are right now. So as long as one does not leave the house for more than the space of 4 amot, she is not considered to have walked 4 amot before washing. And again, in the old days, there was no running water in the house, so to place the water either inside the house, close to the bed, or to have the barrel just outside the house. That way, you're not walking these 6 feet outside the house. For us here, now that the winter is so strong and windy, I closed the front door, but that's where the mailbox is. So I'm not allowed to go through the back door to the mailbox before washing hands in the morning. Others maintain that Ruach Ra has been eliminated from this world. The Tosfot in Yoma 77b cites an opinion that Ruach Ra does not dwell in these kingdoms, France and Germany, and there's some people who interpret that to all of Europe. Lechem Mishneh, who is a commentator on Mishneh Torah and the Maimonides Yad HaChazakah, states that it is implied from Rambam, who lived in Spain and Egypt, that he too is not concerned about the Ruach Ra mentioned in the Talmud. But if you remember, we said that because he said that all of the medicine that's mentioned in the Talmud is not correct for his time, and then a lot of people don't follow his medical advice because there's been so much research since. And the Maharshal, one of the greatest Ashkenazic poskim of the 16th century, writes, "No Ruach Ra'ah is found nowadays." Several other poskim agree with this approach, and some don't. In earlier generations, spiritual and mystical power was more pronounced and intense. If you read Harry Potter or watched the movies, or even some other things like Lost Girl or other what we would call fantasy, uh, it seems that in the old times everybody was influenced by it. I don't think that there actually were witches in Salem, but again, it was a lot more prevalent in earlier generations. And today we explain somebody, instead of saying that they're possessed by demons, we say that they have a mental incapacity of some sort, and we can treat it with chemicals or with therapy. So this was expressed on the one hand by the ability to attain greater and more transcendental experiences, emotionally and spiritually, such as prophecy, and on the other hand, by the presence of all sorts of sorcery and impure spirits, because Hashem created the world to be 100% balanced, not 50-50, but rather the more Kedusha there is, the more holiness and spirituality there is in a place, there's going to be the same amount of impurity and these evil spirits, and so it's a challenge, but Hashem gives us the power to overcome them. Over time, intellectual prowess took center stage at the expense of spiritual forces, and together with the cessation of prophecy, the impure spirits weakened and disappeared. Their place was taken by the evil spirits of false and deceitful ideas. But again, we are talking about halacha, and we're talking about the holiness of women and their spirituality. So, bottom line is that women are more spiritual than men, as we learned before. And the fact that after the temple was destroyed, the rabbis said that from now on, prophecy was given to women, children, and people with mental incapacities. And it's not to say that that's a bad thing, it's just that we can't discern what is actually prophecy and what isn't. My mother became a grandmother by my daughter, who's 30 now, and at 6 minutes to 11 on Shabbat morning, she was in Beersheba, we were in Jerusalem, and she told one of her friends that she feels that she just became a grandmother. So those are just simple examples of how this spirituality works. And before we go on to the explanation, the halacha today is that we say Baruch Hashem L'olam Amen V'Amen at Mariv in synagogue when there's danger that we would go out into the dark and be met by one of these spiritual beings and be affected. And so that's why we say Baruch Hashem L'olam Amen in order for everybody to leave at the same time and walk together. Also, the Talmud talks about scaring away a demon that you met, and Rabbi Rosner told a beautiful story about Rabbi Chia last week, where Abaye found out that Rabbi Chia was coming, Rabbi Abaye Yaakov, sorry, was coming to town, and he said to all the people in the town, do not host him, because there was this demon with 7 heads in the synagogue. And so Rav Acha Bar Yaakov was forced to be in the synagogue, and every time that he bowed down to Hashem, one of the heads blew up. So, but these aren't stories that are today, because today we don't experience these spirits in the same way. Again, maybe in Eretz Israel it's completely gone. That's why they don't say Baruch Hashem Amen. But and also in the Kriyat Shema Amidah, there's all kinds of passages that are talking about spirits affecting us. But again, we have halacha, and as long as it doesn't, as long as the Kabbalah and Zohar don't contradict it, we follow the halacha. So, furthermore, there is an amazing tradition regarding Count Valentine Potocki, the Polish nobleman who had his heart set of joining the Jewish people and converting to Judaism. Since such a thing was prohibited in his time, he converted secretly and engrossed himself in Torah. Eventually, the Christians captured him and offered him 2 options: to return to Christianity or be burnt alive. The righteous convert chose to die by fire, thereby publicly sanctifying God's name. At that moment, the Vilna Gaon said that the Ruach Ra'ah lost some of its strength, particularly regarding the Ruach Ra'ah of the morning. And he was not a Kabbalist by any means. He knew the whole Torah, including Kabbalah, but he was very rationalistic. He even wrote a book about geometry, I believe, called Chuta Meshulash. So we can't think that he's a exorcist or anything like that. He was talking about specific powers that were lost to the evil side. For this reason, the students of the Vilna Gaon are lenient regarding walking 4 amot before washing. And like I said, there's all kinds of minhagim about what we say in Mariv in order to make sure that everybody leaves together. In practice, according to the Chida, the Mishnah Berurah and the Ben Ish Chai, all contemporaries of each other. The Mishnah Berurah died in 1935. The Chida, I'm not sure when, but somewhere just before that. And the Ben Ish Chai was the chief rabbi of Baghdad until the beginning of the 20th century. So one should be careful not to walk more than 4 amot before washing. In contrast, there are poskim who are lenient, whether because the entire house is considered 4 amot, or because today there is no longer any ruach ra on one's hands. Therefore, the common custom is to walk more than 4 amot before washing, but inside the house. However, even according to those who rule leniently, the custom is to be strict about anything mentioned in the Talmud, such as washing one's hands 3 times and not touching bodily orifices prior to washing, like we learned yesterday. And we'll stop here and open up for questions.